Welcome to ScreenBlitz, the weekly film and television show dedicated to giving you all the top news, views, reviews, previews, features, opinions, and more. I'm your host, Grant Burton. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _Grant Burton, or you can go to thoughtsbygrant.wordpress.com for all of my written reviews. If you're watching this on YouTube, get involved in the show, leave a comment down below, subscribe, help me get to 100 subscribers, which is my current goal, and share this across social media to help me build my audience. If you're watching this live on Twitch, you can do pretty much the same thing. Get involved in the show. At the end of the show, we have a big discussion and a hangout where we talk about all the things I've talked about today. Or you can just click follow, that would be really appreciated too. On today's show, I will be reviewing Sharp Objects, Preacher, Disenchantment, and Archer Danger Island. But that's all still to come because each and every week we start with the news. Item number 1 is from Adam Chitwood at Collider. Dwayne Johnson's Big Trouble in Little China will be a continuation, not a remake. So, Big Trouble in Little China is probably one of my favourite films of all time. I love that film. I think it's really weird and quirky and unique. And to do a continuation or a sequel rather than a remake is the smart move. There are two big concerning things here, and that is Kurt Russell and John Carpenter are not attached to this project at all at the minute. That could change when it actually gets into production, but if you don't have Kurt Russell in here, I feel like you're losing a huge element of what made the original so good. And John Carpenter is an icon. He's came back to produce the new Halloween film, so maybe they'll come back and do something in this, maybe do the soundtrack or something. It'd be nice if he does that. It'll also be interesting to see if this continuation addresses the comic books at all, because you might not know, but there is a comic book series which John Carpenter consulted on, which acts as a continuation of the original film. I've never actually read them though, although I do own the first one, I just haven't got around to reading it. So yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, glad it's not a remake. This is probably the best way you could do it, and hopefully Kurt Russell gets involved somehow. Next up, Ethan Anderton at Slash Film. Disney streaming service gets an official name and will cost less than Netflix. Bob Iger referred to the service as Disney Play, but that could change before it's released. Iger states, "We're going to walk before we run as it relates to volume of content. At the low price point, Disney will struggle making profit from the service. The studio will be losing $300 million in revenue they receive from Netflix for the exclusive streaming rights to a bunch of their titles, a deal that will be expiring soon." So, Disney Play sounds alright to me. I've got no problems with that. It seems to sum up what this is going to be. And the low price is really good, I think, because when you consider how much content it's going to have in relation to Netflix and Amazon, it is just going to be the Disney back catalogue. They are going to be introducing some new content like a Star Wars show. In fact, there's like 2 or 3 Star Wars shows going to be on there. Rumours to be some original films there as well. They're also going to be coming out with new Marvel products as well. So that's good. The low price makes perfect sense in that regard. Where it gets a little unclear and a little worrying is what happens to the Marvel content on Netflix. So Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Are they still going to be happening on Netflix? Because we know they're not going onto this Disney service, because it's only going to have any content that's not R-rated. So if that content isn't going onto the Disney service, will it continue on Netflix? And at the same time, will it still be kind of a part of the MCU? That'll be interesting to see if that happens or not. So yeah, Disney Play meant to be coming out next year. I'm interested. Well, with all the new Star Wars content on there, I'm definitely gonna look into it. But yeah, this is all American news by the way as well, so we don't know whether this will relate to the UK at all, because the rights to the UK stuff is probably different to what it is in America. So Netflix, I don't think, has all of the Disney streaming rights here in the UK. I think Sky has some of them too. There is already a Disney streaming service in the UK as well, but I think it's much more focused on children's programming than, say, like Pirates of the Caribbean or the Marvel movies. But yeah, next item. Nelly Andreeva at Deadline says that an alien animated comedy from Rick and Morty duo and 20th TV gets series order at Hulu. There's going to be 2 seasons of 16 episodes, and it's called Solar Opposites, a comedy about a family of aliens living in Middle America, and it's slated for a 2020 release. So, my initial thought when reading this was, this sounds like an animated version of Third Rock from the Sun, which is a pretty good comedy, I think. And yeah, how different is it going to be from that? Well, it's probably going to be wackier because it is animated. It's probably going to be funnier because it's a bit more modern. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty, this is probably going to be right up your alley. And yeah, 2-season order is interesting because it shows confidence in it, but maybe it's overconfidence. Maybe they've only gotten the 2 seasons because of who they are rather than because of the content they've made, because I can imagine this show's in early pre-production. It might not even have any scripts up there yet. So yeah, don't get too excited just yet for this. And it's 2 years away, so plenty of time for that. And they're still working on Rick and Morty. I know Justin Roiland gets involved with video games quite a little bit often now, so they're busy people. Next up, Dornsey, I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I'll butcher it nonetheless. Dornsey Kimlewski from Deadline. Amazon is holding exploratory talks with major Hollywood studios about creating films for a streaming service. Sources confirmed to Deadline. The company has held preliminary discussions with Paramount and Sony and possibly others about the possibility of developing original movies for the streaming service. So, Amazon already makes movies, but unlike other streaming services like Netflix, it actually releases them in theaters first, and then it's quite a while later when they actually go onto their streaming service, Prime Video. So, is that going to change? I don't know. It's probably smarter to release them in theaters because you actually get a lot more revenue from them, I imagine, depending on how well they do. So, I think they need more investment in studios like Sony and Paramount. Those are big gets if they manage to get that, and it'll help them compete with Netflix because their Prime Video service is good, but it's not up there alongside Netflix in terms of the content and the quality of content. Although there is quite a lot of good stuff on there now. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, for example. Just started watching Jack Ryan as well, and that looks very promising. So yeah, they need this. What I'm a little worried about is, will their feature films go straight to the service or will it go to theaters? That remains to be seen. I think it'll be smart to release them in theaters, money wise, but if you release them straight onto their Prime Video service, it will draw in a larger audience. It will convince people to come in and get there. Paramount and Sony have a lot of big franchises under their wing. They make a lot of big, good movies often, so it's a really good get for them. And if this deal does happen, to get Paramount and Sony to do this, how much content will go to Amazon? How much will still be their own thing, Paramount and Sony stuff? So yeah, there's a lot of things up in the air. We don't really know the specifics of it yet, and it is very early preliminary stuff. But it does confirm that maybe the future is indeed in streaming, and arguably the future is now. Leslie Goldberg from The Hollywood Reporter says Mr. Robot to end with season 4 with an expanded 12-episode season. So, I never really liked Mr. Robot. I tried watching it, I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I just could not get into it at all. It's just something about it didn't click. I think Rami Ismail, I think his name is a good actor, but his performance just didn't work for me. I wasn't sure if it was meant to be funny, I wasn't sure if it was meant to be serious. Yeah, Mr. Robot, not for me. And the weird thing is that everyone came out raving and loving this show in this first season, then that died down big time in season 2 onwards. So, yeah, I'm not disappointed that this is ending. I don't particularly care, to be honest. And I know people still watch this show, but yeah, 4 seasons seems fair enough. A lot of shows tend to go on a lot longer. Maybe it's a good thing to end them earlier. This is from Dave McNary at Variety. Wile E. Coyote film is in development at Warner Bros. And it's called Coyote vs. Acme. And Chris McKay, the producer, is producing the film. And if you don't know who he is, he directed the Lego Batman movie and he was involved in a bunch of other stuff. He's a good filmmaker, a good producer, so it's a really good big name to have attached to this, and it brings a lot of hope. Here's the thing though, do people still watch or care about Looney Tunes? Like, do they actually still make Looney Tunes cartoons and animated shows? Because I don't know. When I was growing up, they always were repeats and old things, so I don't know if there is any new stuff coming from this franchise or if it's been dormant for so long. I will say this though, Wile E. Coyote, one of my favourite of the Looney Tunes when I was a kid, and noticeably there's no mention of the Roadrunner in this. So is the Roadrunner going to be in this film at all? I think it would make sense to at least reference it, because Wile E. Coyote is so often associated with Roadrunner. So yeah, and this always worries me with animated films because I remember when they done a Tom and Jerry animated movie, and all of a sudden Tom and Jerry could speak, and it was just so bizarre and odd and so like not what we wanted from a Tom and Jerry movie. They should not speak at all. So will Wile E. Coyote speak? Because I don't believe he ever speaks in the cartoons. So yeah, don't do that. Don't make him talk. But yeah, Chris McKay being attached has me a little confident about this. Final story. Emmy Rossum is leaving Shameless in season 9. So, full disclosure, Shameless here in the UK, I believe we are only just on season 7. I think as of right now recording, season 7 has just been released on Netflix. So we're a little behind. And I don't think it's on any other TV channels or networks in the UK. From what I've watched of Shameless, which is the first 6 seasons, I like the show. It's a very troublesome show at times because it's basically about very likable characters who are doing horrible things. So it's really tough to watch at times. Tonally, it's all over the place. It's very serious at times. It's very funny at times. Often the humour's at the expense of someone who generally does not deserve that treatment. But yeah, it's still a pretty good show. Emmy Rossum, however you want to pronounce it, is the heart and soul of this show. She's by far the best thing about it. I think she's highly underrated in the show. It seems William H. Macy gets all the attention from this, and yeah, he's good in it, but she's really the real reason you watch it, I think. And really good performance, really good, just the main character. So to get rid of the main character is always a big risk, and I think 9 seasons is a long time for this show to go on. I've watched the first 6 and I feel like it's already dragging and it shouldn't really be going on this long. So perhaps just end it. It really doesn't have to be 9 seasons long. It doesn't have to be going on as long as it is. But it sounds like it's going to continue without her, which is a little disappointing. So yeah, that's the news for this week. We are now moving into trailers. But before I go on to the trailers, just a reminder, subscribe to my YouTube channel, leave a comment, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate any support. Share this across social media, Twitter and Facebook. Help me build my audience. That's a really big ask, I know that, but if you don't like it, someone else might. And if you know someone called Mark, tell them I'm talking about him. And come check us out. But moving on to trailers now. True Detective Season 3 released a teaser trailer this week. And not a lot to go on here. It stars Mahershala Ali, so he's a really good actor, and it looks very stylish. It looks tonally more in line with the first season, which I think is a smart move because everyone loved the first season but wasn't keen on the second. So yeah, not a lot to go on. It looks very atmospheric, and hopefully this is a return to form for True Detective. Although, in all honesty, I wasn't that keen on the first season or the second season. But David Milch is attached to this and I love his work, so maybe I'll check that out. Although I think in the end he's only actually co-wrote 1 episode. I don't know how much involvement he's actually had. But I think he was supposed to be the showrunner. The First. This is a new Hulu series starring Sean Penn. In fact, watching this trailer, there's actually quite a few familiar faces in there. It looks like it's got a good cast. But I am concerned with this show because it's not what I thought it was. This show was advertised and promoted as a science fiction show about the first expedition to Mars. And I thought, right, that's great. And it's from Bo Willimon, who done House of Cards, so double great. But the problem is that this show looks really dramatic. It looks perhaps over dramatic and melodramatic at times. And not a lot of space stuff in this. It looks like it's going to be focusing a lot more on the characters being on Earth. Maybe there's going to be like a flashback structure. Maybe it's all about building up to them leaving Earth and going to Mars. In which case, maybe season 2 or the later end of this season is actually going to be on Mars. And because of that, I'm far less interested in it. I'd much rather see them just go right from the beginning, head to Mars, go on Mars, see what happens. But it looks like it's more about leaving Earth than it is about going to Mars and what happens after that. So yeah, a little disappointed. Not sure if I'll check this out now. But yeah, wait for the reviews and see what actually this show is about. Final trailer this week is The Frontrunner. I've just watched this before the show started and it looks alright. It looks like a typical Oscar bait biopic. Hugh Jackman starred as a politician who can connect to the average person, it seems, and yeah, looks interesting, very political, looks familiar to some other biopics. I don't think it's going to be doing anything special or unique. J.K. Simmons is in there, I really like his work, but yeah, The Frontrunner might be worth checking out at some point in the future. And that's the news for this week. If you've liked what you've watched, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. But thanks for watching so far.